Welcome to session number 3 of Module 5, wherein we are discussing about design of power screws. So in the previous two sessions, we have seen the introduction to power screws and different parameters of power screws. So in this session, we'll look at design concepts or how to apply these power screws with the different concepts of design. So while designing the screws, we get a term called as self-locking system or self-locking power screws. So here, when we analyze the forces on the power screws, we can say that whenever the load is raised in the power screw, when the screw is rotated or when the torque is applied on the screw, the load would lower itself. It means without any external force. When you raise the load while rotating the power screw, the load will be raised, and if you just remove the torque, the load would come downwards without any external force. So that will be happening when this mu into pi dm will be less than the lead. And in some applications, you would apply external force or torque to lower that load which has been lifted. So there the condition is that the lead should be less than this mu pi dm. So as the name indicates, self-locking. So lock means whatever the load has been raised by applying the torque on the power screw, that will remain at that particular height or that particular position without coming down, without lowering the load. So for that condition, self-locking condition, we have to satisfy this particular equation here. So this you will see in detail now. So we have the two concepts called as overhauling or self-locking. So whenever, for example, in screw jack, when you rotate the power screw manually or by motor, so whenever the screw is rotated, the load is lifted, and we want the load to stay there for some amount of time without coming down itself by itself. So that condition is called as self-locking. Whereas in some cases, for example in a fly press, we just rotate the power screw, and we want the screw to or the load to come down, to descend itself by itself without any external force or torque required. That is called as overhauling. So we design the power screws for these two conditions. So we can say that power screws will be designed with these two features. So one feature is that the power screw will be either self-locking or it will be overhauling, depending upon the applications. So in certain applications, like I told you, screw jack or in the machine wise, the load should not descend or it should not come back by itself. So you want that to be locked. So that screw has to lock the load and prevent it from ascending or descending, whatever it is, particularly descending. That is called self-locking. Whereas in fly press, we want the load to descend from higher level to lower level freely, that is without actually applying any external force or torque. So that condition is called as overhauling. So if we come to the equation what we derived in the previous session, so torque we derived, the force, sectional force, and the torque we derived with respect to the load which is being lowered. So this is alpha 5 minus alpha here. So this is with respect to the torque required to lower the load. So this equation was derived, and using this equation, this term, suppose say if alpha is greater than phi, so if this alpha is greater than phi, what will happen? The torque will become negative. That means additional torque is required to stop the descent, or we can say that it is a overhauling condition. That means when alpha is greater than 5, the load what has been raised, it will lower itself. So that condition is called as overhauling. So the load descends on its own here. That is the condition for overhaul. It is called as overhauling of the power screw. So example is the fly press, what is used in usually printing presses to hold the or to press the particular stationery. So we have the fly press screw, so where the weights or masses are raised and released to apply the force on that particular job or the workpiece. So if the screw is designed, so if you design it for overhauling, the mass and the screw, that is the mass and the screw rotates and the mass comes down on its own and it will strike the particular component or the paper sheets which has to be pressed. So here you can see this is a fly press, and you can see a certain amount of load is already there in this, and this is the power screw. So when you rotate it anti-clockwise, it will move up, and when you just leave this bar or handle, it will descend by itself. So a load is applied on this component here, compressive load is applied, and that is called as overhauling of the press, a power screw. So this is overhauling concept. Whereas in another case we have what is called as self-locking condition. So in self-locking condition, again we take the equation for lowering the torque. So this is phi minus alpha. So if phi is less than this alpha is less than the phi, the pressure angle, so what will happen? The term TL, that is the torque, will be positive. That means we require extra torque to lower the load. So this is the best example. Here is the screw jack. So whenever we are replacing a wheel or tire in automobile, we require a screw jack and we rotate it and the load is lifted, the vehicle is lifted, and the vehicle has to be remain at that position. So the load has to be maintained at that position, it's not come down. So what happens is that we want the power screw to hold that load or to lock that load from falling down. So that is called as self-locking. So here if you want to lower the load, again extra torque or effort has to be applied. So the efficiency of the self-lock screw is less than 50. So here the efficiency, just remember this term, we will discuss this in detail. So efficiency is nothing but the definition we will see later. The efficiency of this self-locking screw or the screw jack will be less than 1, whereas efficiency of the in case of overhauling will be greater than 50%, whereas efficiency of self-locking will be less than 50%. So one more concept in designing the screw jack or particularly power screws, so where the power screws are applied or designed to lower the load or to take the load, raise the load here. So this is the power screw here, and we have the handle bar, and using this bar we are applying the torque, and on this torque on this bar here, power screw, at the end of the power screw we have this what is called as bearing surface or collar. So this is the collar here. So this is the cup, and on this cup the load will be applied. This is the example of screw jack. So screw jack, upper part we have the cup and the load is placed here, and this is the handlebar and this is the collar. So on this collar the cup will be placed. So whenever we are rotating this handlebar, there will be friction between this collar and this cup. So this friction is called as collar friction. So whenever this screw is rotating, this is fixed here, and so there will be a friction developed between the collar and the cup here. that is called as collar friction. And this is the diameters of this cup here. So we have the inside diameter and outside diameter of the cup or the collar. So if you take this as collar, we have R2 and R1. So this is the weight or the load which is being applied or which is being designed for the power screw to rise or lower. So one more concept is the collar friction has to be considered. So in the previous derivations in analysis, we have not considered this collar friction. So now we will consider this collar friction, and when you consider this collar friction, the torque will be the force into distance. So the load is nothing but this load applied here, W, and we have the friction coefficient of friction for the collar, and this is the DC by 2. So DC is nothing but the collar diameter, mean collar diameter. So half of that. So load into distance will give the torque, and we have the friction which has to be added here. So this is the torque due to collar friction, the TC. So because of this collar friction, extra torque has to be. We have designed the power screw for this extra torque. So this DC mean collar diameter, we can consider it based on two theories. One is based on uniform pressure theory. So we get this equation. So this is the mean collar diameter. So it is inside and outside diameters, D dash and D double dash. There's a larger and smaller diameters. So using this equation, we can calculate the mean collar diameter, or you can calculate mean collar diameter by one more theory, uniform wear theory. So we get this equation. So this is simple here. So it's outer diameter minus inner diameter by 2. So that you can take this equation, or you can use this equation to calculate the mean collar diameter. And FC is anyway, it is the coefficient of friction at the collar. So when you take the collar diameter based on uniform pressure theory, a larger torque and relatively safer results will get. And when you take diameter wear theory, it is less complicated. So as I told you, the equation is very simple. So you can take this uniform wear theory to calculate the collar diameter, and if you take this uniform pressure theory, the larger torque will be larger, but we get the safer design in case of uniform pressure theory to calculate the collar diameter. So if you take the collar friction, so extra torque, what you just saw now, the extra torque is to be added to the torque what you had analyzed, the equation what you had derived in the earlier sessions. So if you add these two torques, the collar friction torque and the normal regular screw torque, we get the total torque required to raise the load. So I told you about efficiency. So efficiency of any system, it is nothing but output by the input. So in case of power screw, the output is nothing but the load lifted by some distance L. So it is F into L, and the input is nothing but the load, the force or the external force what we are applying in terms of this length of that triangle pi dm. So if you take this 2 here, so this force is applied over this area, the force into over this length here. So this applied force P, this capital P here, P into that length of the triangle after the development of that screw that is taken here. So if you take these two here, output by input, we will get efficiency mu as F by P, L by pi dm. So L by pi dm is nothing but tan alpha. This we have seen in the previous derivation. So this is the efficiency of the power screw when the load F or the W is known, and this is the external force what has to be applied to maintain this load, and alpha is the helix angle. So again same term, same equation is here, efficiency output by input. So W is nothing but F here in this case. I told you that different textbooks they use different annotations. So here W is nothing but F. P is nothing but the external force or the torque you're applying. So the same thing will come here, W into L or F into L and P into pi dm. So W by P, so L by pi dm is nothing but tan alpha. And also we know that P is equal to W tan alpha plus alpha. So you substitute that, we get this equation, tan alpha by tan phi plus alpha. The phi is the pressure angle here, because P is equal to W tan alpha tan pi plus alpha. So substitute this, P is equal to W tan alpha plus alpha, W would get cancelled and we get this term. So you can use any of these terms to calculate the efficiency of the power screw. So coming to the main part now, designing of the power screws, we have to calculate the stresses induced in the power screws material. So power screws, as you know, they are subjected to the axial load, maybe compression load, and since the length of the power screws are significant, they are subjected to buckling also. So what you had learned in columns mechanics of materials, that buckling concept has to be designed, are to be calculated for the power screws. So due to the axial load, we have the compressive load on the compressive stress in the power screw or screw rod, and because of this axial load, the buckling, the bending stresses or the crumbling stresses, crushing stress has to be calculated. And also, since it is rotating, the shaft, that power screw or the screw rod is rotating, there will be torsional forces in that. So torsional stresses or the shear stress has to be calculated. And also since the threads, they take the load, they carry the load, they will be subjected to shearing loads. So threads are perpendicular to the axis of the screw rod, and the loads are acting on the threads, that's a flank of the or a face of the threads, so they are subject to shearing also. And also the threads are subjected to crushing or what is called as compressive forces on the bearing surfaces of the threads or on the face of the threads. So we have the bearing surface or bearing stress on the threads. So these stresses or these loads you have to consider while designing the power screws. So we just review the stresses which are applied on the power screws. So if you go back to your mechanics of materials, we had studied about the stresses, that is axial stresses, compressive or tensile. So in the screws, it can be compressive or tensile axial stresses. So stress is nothing but the force by area. So the force or the weight is W on that power screw or the screw rod, and the area, if it is usually the rod is circular in cross section, so it is pi by 4 d square. It's a cross-sectional area of that screw rod, circular screw rod. So this is the direct stress or the axial stress on the screw rod. It can be tensile or compressive, but the formula remains same, force by area. The force is nothing but the weight carried by the power screw, and the cross-sectional area of that screw rod is pi by 4 d square, since it is circular in cross section. Coming to buckling, so we go to the buckling equation as you have learnt in mechanics of materials. So you have the Rankine's formula, so we have the slenderness ratio, then radius of gyration, Rankine's constant alpha, then we have this moment of inertia across the cross-sectional area. So this is the equations related to buckling. So this you have learnt in columns in mechanics of materials. So this equation is just remember, and using all these terms we can calculate the what is called as stresses due to buckling. So this is the crushing or what is called as the crushing stress of the buckling stress. Again, torsional equation, so all of you know, again in mechanics of materials, you have learnt about torsional shear or torsional equation. T by J is equal to tau by R. So tau is nothing but the shear stress. So using that equation, so T by J is the polar moment of inertia, so it is pi d to the power 4 by 64. So if you just tau by R is nothing but d by 2. So if you reduce that, you can directly calculate the shear stress due to torsion. So it's basically torsion equation. T by J is equal to tau by R. And coming to maximum principal stresses and maximum shear stresses. So again, you learnt in what is called as mechanics of materials. In course, you learnt about how to calculate the maximum principal stresses when the loads are acting in x direction and y direction with two-dimensional set of stress or 2D stress. So in this case, it is the stress is acting in one direction, so we take only sigma by 2. The equation is reduced to sigma by 2 plus root of sigma by 2 square plus tau square. So this is the shear stress. So this is the maximum principal stress sigma 1, and tau max is nothing but this part of the equation. So this is the maximum shear stress which is acting on the screw rod. So all these are the equations from mechanics of material course. So coming to shear stress in threads, so threads are subjected to direct shear at the roots. So that shear stress is nothing but this direct shear stress at the root. The thread is given by W by that shear area. So in this case of shear area, it is nothing but thickness of the thread into number of threads. So this is the shear area. So shear area will be thickness of the thread at the root and the number of threads. Usually in case of square thread, thickness will be equal to half of the pitch. And coming to bearing stresses, again it's nothing but subjected to bearing stresses are again because of this bearing loads. So again it is load by the area, and d1 is nothing but the internal diameter of the threads, and this is the mean diameter of the threads. So we take that load, so n is nothing but number of threads, so it is pi dn, pi by 4 d square. So it becomes a hollow shaft or hollow rod here. So pi by 4 d2 square minus d1 square, what we have used in the mechanics of materials equations. So into a number of threads, that gives the bearing stress or the bearing load. So that's it for this session. In the next session we will try to solve some problems based on how to calculate the stresses in the power screws. Thank you.